Welcome to University Centre Peterborough CVs with Impact module. Within this module, we're going to explore how you can create a professional graduate level CV. We're going to go through the different areas of the CV, ensuring that you can embed keywords, demonstrate impact, and identify what you need to embed in your CV to attract the right audience. Your CV is your marketing tool. You're going to be marketing you. And if you are only listing your achievements or the duties that you have done in previous roles and are not including what the impact is that you've had and the skills that you've developed, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you'll probably find you're not going to get in many interviews. What we are seeing is it's the people with the best CVs, not necessarily the people that are best for the role, being shortlisted. In order to prepare for writing a CV, there are stages you need to do beforehand. One of the key areas that you need to do is identify what words are being looked for in the industry and the sector. The easiest way to do this is by going through a variety of roles, and you can see websites on the right hand side that will allow you to do this, and find the type of roles that you're interested in. From this, you can then identify what keywords are being used by the industry, but also what skills, knowledge and behaviours they're looking for. One of the areas that's quite quick for you to do is if you go onto LinkedIn and search by your degree, you can actually identify career choices as well as keywords. Just be mindful when you're looking for roles, be specific to the country you wish to work in. If you wish to work in America, then make sure that you're using American-based websites because the language will change slightly. In addition, language develops over years, so the keywords that were appropriate 2 or 3 years ago may not be appropriate now. There's something called the 20-second rule, and what this means is you only have 10 to 20 seconds to make an impact. Whatever you do to capture their attention means that they will either turn the page or place you on the reject pile. Part of this means using keywords from the industry, using the words that have been highlighted in the job description, the skills that they're looking for, and also ensuring that it's extremely easy for the employer to find that information. On your front page, there's going to be 3 sections as a minimum that you have to add in. You will need your name, address, contact details, including your LinkedIn profile. Then you'll need a profile or a brief introduction to you. This is sometimes called a personal statement. And then a quick summary of your key skills. If you've been in the industry for quite a while, you may also feel it appropriate to do a summary of your achievements. So let's have a look at your personal statement or professional profile. Call it one or the other. And you need to start with a really strong, catchy opening statement. This means it's going to capture their attention. You're going to be using the keywords that the recruiters are looking for. You're going to be concise and straight to the point. You want to be mindful of how long this is and try to write in either the third or the first person. So either I am or he, she is, but don't mix them up. One area that's frequently missed here is the opportunity to write in full sentences. The rest of your CV will be in bullet points, so you need to write in full sentences here to demonstrate that you have that capacity. So here's some examples. You want to start off with who you are, then what you can offer the employer, and then what your career goals are. The key skills and expertise section follows this, and you want no more than 10 bullet points to identify that you are the person for this role. Make sure the skills that you're pulling out are the skills that are being required from the job description and that you truly have these skills. They might only request 3 or 4 skills, but you want to highlight that you've got a broad range of skills, so include in here transferable, job-related and adaptive skills. The next section will either be your education or your employment section, depending on what is strongest for you. Always write this bearing in mind what is the employer interested in. If you're doing the education section, they are interested in what the qualification was, not necessarily who you did it with. So you highlight what the qualification was first. You might want to emphasize what the modules included were, and then you include the year that you gained the qualification. When it comes to things like GCSEs, you can actually just state how many you've gained, what the range of qualifications were, but remember to include the key ones that they may be looking for, such as Maths, English and ICT. If you studied in another country and are aiming to work in the UK, you might need to write equivalent to, so that the employer knows that they're looking at GCSEs or A-levels. It's the same if you're intending to work abroad but you have UK qualifications. So for example, if you intend to work in America, you might need to write AP examination equivalent, so that they know that your A-levels, this is what they're the same as. You can highlight either as a separate section or within the education section any other courses that you've completed, such as first aid, IT, language. It is up to you whether or not you simply add them in or added them in as a new section. If you are adding them in your education, you'll need to change the name of your education section so it's called Education and Training. Again, always start with the most recent and work backwards. Next will come our employment section. So in this case, if our employment section will follow exactly the same format as our education section. So where you are writing what the title of the qualification was, you'll either write the company or the title of the role. The next part will show the title of the role or the company. You choose whichever is most relevant to the role you're applying for. Then it will be the date range that you were there. So for example, from 2020 to 2022. Finally, you'll state with a couple of bullet points what your duties were, then with one bullet point what the impact was that you had, and then with another bullet point what the skills are that you've developed. And we'll use the stars or PARS technique, and we'll go through those next to help. So if we know that the CV is about marketing yourself, we need to highlight the impact you've had and the potential you could have on the future employer. They're not looking for essays. We need bullet points here using active language. So for example, rather than saying I'm involved in promotion of company at industry events, you'd put I promoted the company at industry events. It just makes it a far more active sentence. So let's have a look at the STARS model to begin with. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result and skills. So what you want to do is list what the situation was. So for example, it might be that you were employed in a retail shop. Then what your task was, so what were your responsibilities, what action you took to remedy or improve something, and what this resulted in. Finally, what skills you've developed. So here's my example. I worked in a bar, it was a micro pub, and I was responsible for serving customers, managing the deliveries, maintaining stock, clearing tables. And the task, when I was hired, they told me they weren't reaching their expected sales figures and they were losing profit. So what I did was I decided that we ought to be bringing in some alternative stock, maybe adding a coffee machine, also bringing in a quiz night. And what this resulted in, after 4 months, the client numbers increased, the profits increased, and we could see additional staff were required. I developed management skills, negotiation, communication, and sales skills. But that's quite a lot of words for our CV. So what this can now become is a shortened resume version. And please note that this has been worded at graduate level. You want to make sure the language you're using is very much as if you were writing a report. So I led a plan to resolve profit decline at the pub. We redesigned the stock held, we planned and implemented a customer entertainment evening. This is what it resulted in, and these are the skills that I developed. Now the PARS method is very similar. PAR stands for problem, action, results, and skills. So what was the problem? What action did I take? What did it result in? And what skills did I develop? So here's my example from a management point of view. The company, when I was taken on, had high labour costs, and they wanted me to create a number of initiatives that would reduce cost. And what it resulted in was labour costs declined, overtime declined, and material waste declined. And these were the skills that I developed. And then underneath, you can see what I would write on my CV. So managed and led a team of 6 in a cost reduction initiatives, impact, skills. Be mindful when you're writing these about what the business drivers are. What is it that the employer is going to care about? So not only the keywords that they're using, but what can you bring to their company? And they're generally going to be after how you developed quality, made something more efficient, improved the competitiveness of your company, gained customer loyalty, developed customer satisfaction. So consider, have you solved a problem, improved the quality, implemented so something could change quicker, make it more efficient, reduce costs, etc. Your next section will be to do with achievements and interests. Now here you only want to include anything that is relevant to the role. So for example, you might be a member of a certain club or society, but if you're not writing this in a way that emphasises what it's bringing to the role, the employer is going to question why you're even adding it onto your CV. So you might want to emphasise the skills that have been developed or the dedication that you've shown here, and again use the stars and PARS model. Your final 2 sections, one of them will say additional information, and this is only if you want to add anything extra. It could be any publications you've done, any research you've completed, any notes about any gaps in your employment history. It could also be additional information like you speak 3 or 4 languages, you've got a certain type of driving license. And then finally, you're going to write references as a header, and then state references are available upon request. Do not put your references down in the CV you're sending the employer. The reason for this is that you want to stay in control of your references, and your referees are going to get annoyed if their information keeps being sent out there. You need to ask your referees for their permission to add them to your reference or your CV, and this way you can also ensure that you are only providing their information when it's being asked for, which is usually at the point after being shortlisted, possibly even after interview. We then need to go through and make sure your CV is an easy read. If it looks cluttered or there's lots of paragraphs and not a lot of white space, we need to shorten it. You don't want to take a daring approach unless you're in the creative industries. So keep your fonts very similar, your formatting all the same throughout. You want to make sure it doesn't look messy and it highlights the key information. Double check typos, spellings, grammar, and make sure you're using the right country's spelling. E.g., if you're applying for a job in the UK, you're applying British spelling. If you are doing a creative application, you may want to consider a makeover for your CV, and there's some examples here of where you could go to for something a bit more creative. The other thing to be mindful with your CV is you might want to keep one very long CV that lists everything, and then this way you can pull out what you need depending on what you're applying for and when. This long CV might also include the names and addresses of your references to allow you just to have a quick reference to go back to it. So within this course, we now know how to create a professional graduate level CV using STARS or PARS method to highlight impact in the skills you've developed. If you're a student, staff member or alumni of University Centre Peterborough, you are welcome to contact us for any additional support at employerhub@peterborough.ac.uk.